We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I may not be a millionaire. I may not have a brand new Frigidaire. My clothes ain't all fancy, and my car ain't brand new. But there is joy in my
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
And I'm joined here by my co-host and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
Good morning, and how are you?
Good. I'm hanging in there.
Good.
hanging in there.
I tell you, sometimes God just puts a lot on your plate, and you have to trust Him.
That's right. One day at a time.
One day at a
For
time.
me, it's one moment at a time.
Yes, because your fighter's getting ready to. So, what do you have to do to prepare for the fighters?
Well,
What do they have to do?
There's fighters that are training at 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
There's triathletes training 4 or 5 times a week, and then have rest days in between. They have to eat well. They have to cut weight. You name it. It is a slew of things.
See,
And it's a little overwhelming sometimes because they also have to be then emotionally and mentally prepared.
right.
And that's something that I think is something that I have to do for them, is mentally prepare them, emotionally prepare them for these enduring trials that they're going to face. Everything from a fighter being in a cage to a triathlete running and bicycling 56 miles.
See, they're disciplined. And I think we kind of get complacent walking with God because we are in a battle too. And we've got to be disciplined. So when I hear that, it just reinforces to me to use the tools and to keep in the program.
That's right. Keep in the program. You got to keep showing up I have to keep showing up to my meetings, keep working my program, keep talking to my sponsor in order to be training in this emotional warfare,
Yeah, when you talked about cutting back weight, explain that.
Or they cut weight. A lot of times they put on a lot of weight before their fight to bulk up and get strong. But right before the weight, they have to make a certain weight. So they'll cut drastic amounts of weight right before the fight. And within 24 hours to, I would say, 36 hours, they gain about 17 pounds back.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot. That kind of reminds me of when the Lord says He prunes us. In terms of gardening, all those things fall into place. It'd be nice one time if you broke that down in fighting and training, and because that's what our walk is about. Sometimes we have to bulk up. Sometimes God lets us puff up, and then other times He says puff it down.
That's right.
Cut it out. I mean, so I'm interested in hearing what you're saying. That's awesome.
And I relate all my program work, my walk with Christ, to what I teach. I've been teaching 20 years now. I've been training for 25 years of my life. I apply what I've learned physically to the emotional realm as well.
That's beautiful. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you, man. I'm a little slower and a little older now, but I do apply the same discipline that I had for training and preparing for a fight to training and preparing for this thing called life.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know why I feel like asking you this, but I guess coaches who once were like yourself, you were in the fray, you were doing the fighting and all that. Now you're on the other side of it. So what you bring to the table to these young people is wisdom on how to use their. What is that? What a coach does?
Exactly. It's my job to motivate them, to develop them, and if they're getting bad habits, to cut them down, humble them, and then build them back up with a stronger foundation.
Okay.
My job is to build a foundation for them to go the extra mile, to go the distance. A lot of these fighters are very explosive and very one-hit wonders kind of thing.
Right.
I take on more clients that are willing to
go the long run.
Yes, and that's usually the harder route. That's
That's
which
awesome.
is kind of the same thing with our walk with Christ.
Yeah.
We can take the easy route and proclaim Him, but then live a different life when you go home.
Yeah, or have that real big experience at church, and hallelujah. And then when the trials come on, learning how to pace like that time I was talking about marathon runners and sprinters.
Exactly.
So you as coaches, see, I'm understanding the wisdom of the coaches. They may not have all that. They're not young, but they
Exactly.
you have the know-how. You know how to pace it. You know what's coming.
And that is my job.
Yeah,
that is my job, to
wow.
develop them properly for them to go to the distance. When you're fighting a fight and it's a championship fight, it's 3-minute rounds. It's 5 rounds of 3 minutes. You're talking about 15 minutes of high intensity fighting for your life pretty much.
Wow.
When a triathlete goes, the average triathlon is about 7 hours. So they're swimming, biking, or running consistently for 7 hours out of the day, and they got to make sure they're taking in the right calories and make sure that if there's injuries, they know how to adjust to certain things. So it's a big undertaking.
And that's life. That's what we're doing in life. That's
Yes.
kind of like tying this in. That's why we keep coming each week, hopefully with different people, to give different experiences, because we're facing life.
Amen.
You know, so thank you for sharing that.
And that's what this show's about.
Mhm.
Bringing those joys in those trials and those tribulations
Yeah.
and in those challenges. You know, these are contests and these are bouts, but we have those bouts day in and day out
Right.
in our everyday
Yes,
life.
we do. Yes, we do. And either we're going to run the race with endurance or we're going to fall by the wayside. So I'm going to keep asking you periodically because it's important.
I think so too. I think so
I
too.
mean, this is what we're doing here.
Because we had a great guest last week.
Yes, we did.
A
Yes,
young
we
lady by the
did.
name of Cassidy Mack. She's an actress. She's a
I enjoyed
star
her.
to the movie Zoe to the Max. And she has a great foundation called Love Gives Chances.
From the foster child. It's just interesting. I always say that, to see now God put her in her arena from her circumstances of being a foster child and being adopted.
Mm-hmm.
So she has that insight. It's amazing. It was really refreshing seeing her 'cause she's very humble and very loving.
Yeah, very
And her
charismatic.
mom was awesome.
And when I first met her, I was very impressed. I mean, just you couldn't help but she's so likable.
Right.
Because she has that humbleness, she has that heart to give back too.
Mm-hmm.
She was very grateful for the family that God gave her.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times I think we take a lot for granted. Oh, you know, as a teen, I used to think my parents, oh, I can't believe my parents are making me do this, or I have to do this for my parents.
Yeah.
When in actuality, what a blessing that I had the family that I have till this day.
That's right. That's right. So good for you, Cassidy. I hope, you know, if you're out there watching, that you keep on running your race. So today
we have a great guest.
Yes.
She's been on the show before. Paula Henderson. She is from Mothers in Charge. She is the president of the LA chapter.
Oh, that's so beautiful. She's going to give us an update. I think it's important to periodically have people on like this because life is happening. She's in a whole nother realm that God has put her on the front line. I tell you, it's amazing. I'm sorry that she's a part of this ministry, but I'm blessed that she's taken her tragedy and is turning it around to help other people. And that's what this show's all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to find us on Facebook /Joy in My House. I want you to find us on Twitter /Joy in My House. You can also find us here on LA Talk Live. You can watch all of our archive shows if you go to www.latalklive.com. If you're just listening to us, I want you to know that you can stream us live on any mobile device on ustream.tv /LA Talk Live Radio. You can also find us on iTunes, genre R&B, LA Talk Live. All these avenues are a way for you out there to engage with us. We want to know what's going on, the joy that you're having in your house. So please feel free to engage with us. Send us a text, send us an email, find us on Twitter, send us any message you have that you would maybe like to hear about. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. Inspirational reality radio just for you. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
How can I forget you? Where did the sweetness go, Lord? Have I fallen from your hand? Am I so far from you, Lord? Is my life in your plan? Where can I run when I feel all alone? Do my words truly reach you high on your throne? Where did your presence go, Lord? Have you pushed me
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery, a reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid. I'm joined here by my co-host and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
Hi there, and hi Van Eric. Wanted to say hi to you today. See how you're doing.
Welcome to
Good.
another day of Joy in My House.
Welcome. Yeah.
And we have our in-studio guest, Paula Henderson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back to the
Welcome
show.
back. Yeah.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
Now, you were on the show previously last year, and you were speaking about an organization that you're a big part of now called Mothers in Charge.
That's correct. And today I'm going to be giving you a little update on what Mothers in Charge is doing in the community since we launched our chapter in October of 2013, which you guys were really helpful in getting the word out about that.
Well, we're really glad to have you on here.
We're going to just very quickly go through letting our audience and viewers get to know you a little bit. So we want to touch and let them get the opportunity to get to know you and your story and why you're now a big part of this Mothers in Charge organization and giving back to the community. Where did you grow up?
Actually, I grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's a capital city. A lot of people don't know that. It's only a 5-mile radius city, so it's a small city, but I was born and raised there. I'm one of 3 children. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, and all of my core family is still, a lot of them are still there in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, so I grew up in that town.
To bring it down a little bit, we're getting it.
Well, we kind of like to touch base on your story so people can relate to you and connect with you.
Yeah, because she was on before, but just kind of giving them an update because for people who hadn't seen it.
Now, your parents split up at a young age. How did that affect you?
Well, I was pretty young when my family and my mom and dad split up. So my father was around and involved in our life, but my mother was the primary breadwinner and the one that guided us through life. We would spend weekends with my dad. He was actually in law enforcement. He worked for the county sheriff's office there. So. We had our mother, we had our cousins and everything like that, but we, weren't as traditional as some of the other families. But actually in my community, it wasn't like the end of the world. A lot of fathers weren't. A lot of families were broken.
We're kind of like broken families. Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who eventually, hopefully we're going to have on the show, but at least even back then you had more of a community, a sense of togetherness. If the father or mother wasn't there, aunts were there, grandparents were there, and
Correct.
So you did have kind of a sense of cohesiveness.
Absolutely.
Did you see a lot of stuff that would prepare you for what you're ministering today? Was there a lot of violence in the neighborhood when you were coming up? Or?
I would say yes. I mean, I grew up in the inner city in the projects, so there was violence, playground fights, and but I don't know how unusual that is for other communities, but for me, it was just part of, life. But there was not the gang and gun violence that you see today.
It's
and
escalated.
It was a community where, your aunts were there, your cousins were there, your neighbors were there. And there were a lot of people looking out for you that wanted to see you make the right choice. So you had a lot of support.
Yeah, you did have a lot of support. It's funny because back then, I remember when one of my cousins would get in a fight, our aunts would go back and tell them, you better go back out there and do it, or we'd come and join in or whatever. But today, you can't do that. There's no such thing as people duking it out,
No, there's no the fist fight. I haven't heard of a fight. People would get around.
We would all,
But everybody walked away, and so, not knowing how to manage your anger was always something that was part of the community, but we just had a lot more regard for life and for one another, and we were considered brothers and sisters. So it wasn't, that's how, what's happening, brother, how you doing, sister? Those kind of terms kept you connected in a lot of ways, which that has fallen by the wayside.
I agree.
Well, I wanted to touch on your mother because I think your mother was very pinnacle and inspirational to you, as most mothers are. But in your life, your mother taught you to love the Lord. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my mother, she was a Christian woman, very involved in her church. Required us to go to Sunday school and the church when we were little. I remember vacation Bible school.
Oh, yeah.
Getting on the bus.
My nieces going.
And just, my mom always was involved with the pastor. She was a treasurer. She was an usher. She just leaned on God, because that's a lot of all she had. My mother's mother died when she was young.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my mother's mother died when she was only 10.
Oh, what happened, if you don't mind?
She had like a blood clot.
Oh, okay,
And
so
you know, back
sickness,
then
yeah.
they didn't diagnose to that degree, but basically she had a blood clot that led to her death.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was pretty much could have been an orphan if it wasn't for her brother, which I talk a little bit about, who was her older brother that stepped in. He
And took
wasn't
care of
much
her?
older, but
Wow.
he was old enough to go into the military and get married, so he could get her and bring her to Pennsylvania, because they were living in the deep South at the time, and he didn't like the deep South and
No.
wanted his sister out of there, so he didn't leave her behind.
Wow.
He sent for her.
Well, that's very interesting, because as you were talking earlier, how more traditional times, people would take the roles. They would
Exactly.
they
Step
see
in.
they would step in and step up to that plate. Where nowadays, those are very vacant. They're very
I think that's why the
Absolutely.
foster system is probably so, full of kids, and because people are not stepping up and doing whatever. So thank goodness for your uncle.
Right.
Is he still in your life now? Was
Yes,
he?
he
Was,
is.
was he a Christian? Well, he must have been. Did he raise your mother to know the Lord?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Oh,
They were
wow.
raised to know the Lord by their mother, and of course that seed that my grandmother Olivia sowed with her son,
Mhm.
my uncle, was what led him to step in. And as you just mentioned too, the foster care system, we as a community didn't believe our kids should go into foster care. We would be ashamed or embarrassed if
Wow.
someone didn't stand up and step in and take on that role. And a lot of that has changed, which is really leading to a lot of the violence in our communities.
Oh, okay. So
It's
see how the
not
Lord
just a-
segues that, how He's done. So you see that
Oh, of
in
course.
terms of that, a lot of
Absolutely.
the violence is coming from the kids who didn't have families.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I
wow.
can give you numerous, examples
Mhm.
where some kids end up in the foster care. They never have a core family. A lot of that is due to drugs and other issues. But yes, the foster care system and the kids that have never lived in a home and had a traditional family or someone that truly loved them and wasn't doing it for a paycheck or for other reasons. It's really
interesting.
affected our community.
So, thinking about last week, so Cassidy's doing the work in terms of being a foster child, going out there and encouraging people to adopt these children.
Mm-hmm.
And you are like the ministry of the result of when we don't step up.
Absolutely.
Isn't
This
that awesome
is
how God
so
works?
Very true.
Gosh, it's such we're all connected.
Yes, we are.
It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
God has a bigger plan that sometimes we can't see
Right,
from where we're at.
right,
right,
you know.
right.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to touch more on your mother, because your mother went to go home to be with the Lord in 2008.
She did.
Was she sick?
Yes, my mother was sick. She had several different medical, like chronic issues, like hypertension, high blood pressure, things that, over time took a toll on her, and she ended up having a very bad asthma attack, and they couldn't get her to the hospital in time. So yeah, she passed away, and she had just been out to see me, and because she still lived in Pennsylvania, that Mother's Day. And
Oh.
I
I don't remember you telling. Maybe you did
yeah,
share that,
I
but
probably didn't.
no. See,
as
we have a
you
different. See, a
do
different.
this work, you really start to understand all the things, like you said, are connected.
Mhm.
So yes, my mother had been here, and that she passed away in June of the month after she was here. So
So you got a chance to say goodbye to her without
did.
realizing it.
yes, hmm
Boy.
yeah, I did.
But I like what you said, because you said that she left you a gift of faith that still lives into you today.
And that is so true. My mother's faith in God that he was going to see her through what she had to experience as a young child, not having a mother or a father, and and then her mother's involvement in the church and my uncle's involvement in the church, and then her passing that on to her children. But for me especially, I just saw my mother pray and ask God to help and believe in God and what he could do in your life. And she never took glory. She always gave it to God. And so I figured, well, you know what? If God's working in my mother's life, he's going to work in my life. And so her faith in God and what she showed me, what God can do, how he can turn your life around. You don't have to be afraid. You're never alone. You always have God. No matter what happens, keep your faith in God, because that's what's going to get you through this.
And he's a parent too. When you were saying that, he was the mother and father that she never had.
Exactly.
I think that's the thing that we're trying to say each week when we get together, that he's individual and he's whatever you need him to be. Like I'm in the midst of in the ministry, but I'm a widow, and so many women around me have husbands, and sometimes I feel kind of on the outside, but the Lord is my husband. He's whatever you need him to be.
Exactly.
He's that mother, he's that father if you're in the foster system, and he's also what you're going to talk about.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't even know what to call him for people who have suffered what you've suffered. What has he been for you?
It's just been like someone that has caught me on a fall that I could have descended into the darkness.
Okay.
And my faith in God and knowing that God loves me, and he loves all of us, no matter what our circumstances may be. We cannot allow evil to take control of our lives, no matter what. And because I believe in God, and that struggle every day where I feel like somebody's trying to get my spirit, and I belong to God, and I am not going to surrender and have to crawl out of a hole, because God has me now, and whatever I go through, he's always going to be there with me.
Boy, that's beautifully said. That is beautifully said.
Well, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to go very quickly. You went to a historical black college, which is North Carolina Central University. First, you're the first in your immediate family to have graduated.
Correct.
From a university.
What did you what was your major?
I majored in business administration.
Smart girl.
But when I went to college, it was again someone mentoring and guiding me, because my mother didn't go to college, and but I had a counselor that kind of said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." He says, "Well, you're going to stay around here and get pregnant like the rest of these girls." And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he guided me and led me to get involved and to go to school. And it really opened up my
That's a
world,
big
because like I
deal.
said, I grew up in the inner city where,
People weren't
you weren't
going.
expected to be or do anything.
That's amazing, Paula. That's amazing. And then for business too. That's smart. You know what? I thought business was easy. I hear people, they say business classes are.
Oh, they're very tough.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
I don't know how I got through those classes.
I do. You smart girl. You smart.
Well, you moved to LA and you started working in human resources, is what you still do to this day. But in 1985, you got married and had a son.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I was married at, I think I was 29.
Were you in the service at this point?
No,
Was that afterwards?
I had graduated from college. My sister was living here in LA, so I came out here because I didn't want to go back to Harrisburg. There wasn't nothing going on there. So I came here, and I had been here. I graduated in 81, so I had been here for 4 years, and I met a gentleman. Actually, my first husband, he was Somalian. And I really liked what I liked about Somalians and other countries, or about the African culture, is that they believed in family.
Yeah, they are very family
so
oriented.
family oriented.
Yes, they are.
And
Yes.
they really were together as a tight unit. And I think I was looking
Filipino
for something
families
to be a
are
part
that
of.
way too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really embraced the culture. It was different because we had, different religions, which we'll talk a little bit about, but just a good-spirited man. And in 1989, we had a son. His name's Liban Aden.
I never, now see, this interesting how the second time around, I didn't know that Levan's father was Samoan.
Oh, Somalian.
Somalian.
Yeah, he's from
Somalian. That's right.
Somalian, yeah.
Somalian. Okay. I'm getting
the African.
Now I remember
Yes.
that. Okay, because I thought you were saying Samoan. I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's different.
No,
Somalian.
Somalian.
But still, it's a very, very family-oriented culture.
Oh, yes.
And like you
Okay.
said, even though the marriage didn't work, you were both very proud and committed parents to Liban.
Yes, we were. And we never saw the future being what it ended up being. We both loved and cherished our son. Our cultures made it difficult for us to always agree.
Yeah, the parent probably differently.
Yeah, the parent very differently.
I think that goes with any kind of couple.
Yes.
That goes with that.
Okay, any kind of couple. But
So
that's
put
probably even
yourself
makes it
with
harder.
Someone from another culture.
Right.
completely
So that would really
that has no doesn't even understand half of the things that happen in this country. But
Right.
when people come here from another country, they just see it as a land of opportunity. They don't necessarily get exposed to all of the potential pitfalls. But yeah, very nice, gentle, loving, spirited man. Loved his son and was a good father. Yeah.
Well, I like what you said because even though the marriage took its toll, especially because of religious differences,
That would be, yeah.
still provided the best education and support for your son,
Right.
both of you.
Yes, we did.
Now, he graduated in 2007 and then he joined the Navy.
Correct. We were living in Pasadena, South Pasadena area. Very nice community.
Yeah,
Had a
right
great
over there, yeah.
opportunity for education. And in 2007, he graduated and he joined the Navy. He was in the Navy my son was in the Navy for 2 years and stationed over in the Middle East. He was an MP, a military police officer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like his granddaddy.
Yeah.
Was your father was your father involved in your life during this time too, or?
My father was always involved in my life, but he wasn't as active because we were a separated family. I
Okay,
mean, but
alright.
he wasn't. We went and spent time with him, but I don't remember getting as much guidance. It was like
As
we're going
from
with
your
Dad.
mom.
We're going to get some ice cream.
Hello, I
He
know
was
you.
like, we're going to get some
Fun
new
dad.
shoes.
That's it. That's right.
It's nice to play that role. He
That
didn't
is
do a lot of
true.
disciplinarian. He left that to my mom, which was
Right.
kind of tough.
Well, I
Yeah.
was only asking that because you said your son got ended up being like a military policeman. So I thought maybe, but hey,
Yeah.
it's in the family, the
Yeah.
whole bit.
Well, he planned to go to college to Arizona,
Correct.
but before he can attend college, a tragedy happened.
Right. Right.
Let's
Right.
talk a little bit about that.
And that is really the crux of why I'm here today and where my life has been led. On May 25th of 2010, my son was shot and killed. He was murdered. We still don't know who killed him, but we do know it was someone that he knew because they were very close enough to shoot him
You have
and
his
make
picture. You wanna
sure
show
that
it?
he wouldn't survive. This is a picture of my son, and this is me and him he's 18 here, so he probably looks a lot older.
How old was he when he passed?
He was 20.
Oh
It was
boy.
one day before his 21st
First birthday.
birthday. And this May, which is a tough time, which
Mhm.
is coming up very soon,
Right.
he would have
yeah.
been turning 25.
So do you
and-
still go through that for the? I remember losing family members, birthdays and holidays. Is it still very painful?
Oh my God, it's very painful. I'm thinking it's been 4 years and he would have only been 25, and how young his life,
Yes.
how much life he didn't get to
Experience.
experience.
I don't know how well the audience can see this picture, but it's really almost prophetic.
You can see it.
It's really prophetic. I mean, the fact that you couldn't see any more love that you have for this son
Than
and that
in
he
that
had for
picture.
you. I mean, it's almost like God saying, baby, you did your job.
Yeah,
I look at this and I think, God, thank you for this picture.
yes,
And I believe he's smiling like that where he is now.
right, yeah.
This
It's
is
amazing
very
that this
prophetic.
picture
Yes, it
came to
is.
be, and I thought maybe when he went into the military, I didn't know if he was going to come home.
Is that why you did it?
Yes, he was leaving like 2 weeks after that, and I wanted to have a picture because I had a picture of him when he was 5, and it was a picture of me and him together. And I was like, he's going off to the military. I don't know if he's
What
going
could
to come
happen?
home. He's
Yeah.
going to the Middle East.
That is
So,
amazing.
yeah.
I mean, to go to the military and then come back okay,
Right.
and then life's
Right.
not fair.
No, it isn't.
It is not fair.
And we don't know who is going to strike. And we all feel very safe, but I never thought this would happen to me. My son didn't make all perfect choices. He had made some poor choices before he went into the military. And I've been, trying to find out if that's what led to his murder. And in a lot of ways, I do believe it is. It
You mean
was
his choices?
his choices that he made as a younger person. And he went into the military and he was gone. But I believe that some of those choices led to people he thought were his friends now coming back to betray him because he wanted a different life.
So you think it might have been kind of like this? You don't leave. You don't
yes.
leave the community. You are
Exactly.
once in, always in.
Yes.
But even when you say that, he didn't deserve to.
No, he
He
never
never deserved
ever
that.
deserved it. And that's
Because there's people who make choices all the time and are still living. You just don't know how God thinks.
right. Or what's going to happen, or
But
who's going to have a million choices and who's only going to have a couple. But it's a sickness, and it's I believe that had something to do with his death.
Does that give you comfort
It's-
in finding out answers? I would imagine, I don't want to go there. Oh, God knows. So I'm asking you with the utmost respect. Does it give you peace to find out what happened and why it happened? And
You know, it's so weird because as a mother, you already know.
You have a sense.
You have a sense. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this the last time I was here, but about 3 weeks before this happened, I felt like something was going to happen to my
no,
son.
you did not share that.
I did, and
Are you kidding?
Yes,
Well, we had other guests too, so we were
I
kind
was
of sharing
talking
the
to
podium.
him, and I just felt.
What
I
happened?
started looking. We had been somewhat estranged a little, and he hadn't talked to me in a couple weeks, and I started looking for him. I went looking for him at some of his friends' house, and I had this great sense of weight and just anxiousness that something was going to happen to my son. I didn't think it was going to be this, but I knew it wasn't going to be good.
Wow.
Honestly. And I called my cousins. I was like, something's going to happen to my son. And they thought, well,
Yeah, all mothers feel that way because we
You
do kind of
do.
have that a little
you
bit
have
when
a
they.
sense, because this is a part of you. No
Yeah.
matter the fact that it's on the outside, a living, breathing
Yes.
person, you're still connected.
Yes.
That's why the mother and the child's relationship is so strong, because they're a part of you, even though, they grow up and they go on to do
No,
other
you didn't
things.
share this last time, but
Yeah.
like I said, we had 3 other beautiful women here who were giving their stories. So
Right.
you had that. You had
I
that.
did
You
have
feel
that
like God
feeling.
kind of prepared you.
I don't think anything prepared me. I think God and my faith is the only thing I can say that is keeping me strong. And also, I've developed a bigger mission
You
as a result of losing my son,
You sure
because
have.
I've learned not only am I affected by what happened, but there are children that pick up guns, and they're victims too. They've been victimized for probably a very long time, and that I have to learn how to love and forgive and reach out to other children before they pick up a gun.
And I'm
think
sure that was a
they're-
process, though.
Oh, yes.
Which is,
And
I'm
it's
so glad
still
you're
an
here.
evolving process.
That's why I'm glad you're here, because I'm sure I don't want. Joel has other things to ask you, but it's
I'm
just,
sorry.
it's just no, you're doing wonderful. I just wanted to ask you in terms of where you've been and where you are now. You're not telling people that we had a whole thing in our church about forgiveness. Remember, Joel? You're not telling people that, okay, my son was shot and I forgive the person who shot him, and my faith with God isn't. What was that journey like to get where you are? We want people to know that this is a journey.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It really is.
Good word, process.
I definitely was just in great pain, a pain that I never experienced before, from a broken heart, from the trauma of knowing that I wouldn't see my child again. I don't know if I ever was particularly angry at an individual. I'm angry at the fact that our children are not safe. I'm angry at the fact that the murder rate of young black men is so high, and that my son became part of those statistics, and that our children are not safe to go to school. I checked I look at the crime report now. I never used to.
Yeah, I wouldn't
until
do
this
that.
happened to me. But the LA Times does have a crime report, and there have been 124 murders of young black men, or of black men in LA since year to date.
Wow.
30 of young black men, of people, and 30 of them have been black men, I should say. So I added up the number of people that were killed since my son was murdered. It was 1,236 deaths due to gunshots.
And that's
That's from 2010 to now. And that's just in LA County. So what made me angry was that even though I went to college and did the right thing, got a college degree,
Hmm.
was a working class citizen, paying my
And
taxes.
you were in the military yourself.
Well, no, I wasn't in the
Oh,
military,
at
but
that point.
my son was in the military,
Oh,
but I've
okay.
never been in the military. But I was doing what I was told I needed to do
Hmm.
to make my community better, and I became a victim.
Hmm.
I was angry about that, because I'm like,
Why, God? How
why
can this?
me?
Yeah.
Why are our people suffering?
Hmm.
What is it that we need to do differently? So
Hmm.
this isn't another mother sitting up here having to tell her story of losing her child.
So, like you're saying, you had all this that you had to process. You didn't necessarily
Exactly.
have a bitterness and a hatefulness towards, but just like you said, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just said that beautifully. So you slowly went from that pain.
Right.
Did you go through a part where what were you going to ask, Will?
Well, it was nice what you said that even though he passed at such a young age, he had a young lady who was pregnant that he never got the opportunity to meet his daughter,
Right.
Leah.
Right.
But you said Leah is God's mercy for your broken heart.
Absolutely. I found out that Leah was going to be born about maybe 3 weeks before my son was murdered.
When you
and
found him, was it a good reconciliation? Because you said you guys were estranged.
I never found him.
Oh,
The next time I heard about my son was his dad calling me saying that he was dead.
Paula, we didn't talk about this.
No, we didn't.
What?
We didn't talk about
You never
this.
found him?
No. I never found him. So I knew that things weren't going well for him. I think he, I don't know for sure, so I don't
Right,
like to speculate,
right,
but I
right.
did have this sense that things were not as they should be.
Right.
And I think it's important to tell that because I think that we young people don't always make the right choices. They don't deserve what happens to them, but I think a lot of times when someone's murdered, the family feels judged and they feel like they have to protect and
Yeah, like, well, where were you and how would you raise and this kind of
right.
stuff.
And you can look at my son on the picture just like so many
Oh,
other
he's
mothers that
beautiful.
have buried children. Their children were not monsters, but we want to say, well, they're monsters. I can't relate to them, but I know a lot of people
No, they're not.
who have done a lot to try to see a future that was going to be brighter than growing up in poverty and only to lose a child to violence, to the same people that you probably were trying to
Keep him away
keep
from
him
or
away
work so
from.
hard to get away from.
Exactly. Yes.
So then, so you found out. Okay, 3 weeks. How'd you find out about since you didn't have your son? How did you know? The girlfriend came and found you.
Yeah, she called me. She was like, and it's just another story I won't go a lot of detail into, but she was actually she knew my niece. And my niece knew her when she was a little girl. But she called me and she was like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, what? Who are you?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So she said, she told me who she was, and I went to visit her. And I, to this day, she and I are so close. She moved to Oklahoma because she didn't want to stay out here in LA. But she, and I was like, when we found out, and I had to tell her that my son had been killed, and she was just devastated, because she really loved my son. I mean, and so she was very devastated, but we began to bond. And her story is, very interesting in that her parents were substance abusers. She was in foster care.
Oh wow.
So,
Here's that circle again, that connection,
yeah.
and how God had that little gift for Leah.
Yeah. And Leah was born
Oh.
on January 5th, 2000, and she's 3 now, so that was in 2011.
Oh look, yeah.
And this is her when she was a newborn.
Okay,
And
you got to
when
get something.
Yeah, and I didn't bring a current picture, but you can see the
Well, you
love.
want to be careful
and the
nowadays,
connection.
putting her picture out on the internet.
Yes,
That's-
of me and her, and just
Aw.
she's now 3 and running around, and she's just adorable. She's got the spirit of my son, me, her mom. She's loved, And at some point we're gonna have
So
to
that's
tell her what happened
what
to her
happened to
dad.
him. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to touch on,
Goodness.
as we were saying, this is a process that you went through.
Mhm.
After your son passing, him being murdered, you started to question your faith in God.
Yeah.
And I
what
think
was
that's
that like?
important to say.
Because like I was saying to you earlier, I said, I'm so glad you're back on it, because you can share. Somebody just lost a brother, a father, a son
Absolutely.
yesterday.
Yeah.
You're 4 years down the line.
Yeah.
So like Joel is saying, what happened? Where was your faith when it first happened?
Oh my faith was really low. I just couldn't believe that God would allow my son to become a victim of violent crime, to be murdered, and me to be burying him. I wasn't estranged to violence and things because, I know it's part of life. I mean, it never happened to me. It never happened to my family. But, I know that it happens. And I just was so hurt that God would allow my son to be murdered. That I didn't go to church. I was like, what does God care about me?
Yeah, why pray? I have a girlfriend, like I was telling you earlier, who she's not angry. She's just kind of, I don't want to pray.
Hurt.
She's hurt. She's just so like far removed. It's
Yes.
like, I'm not mad at God. I just I don't get it.
Exactly.
That's
that's
what it is?
exactly how I felt. I was just so hurt that God wouldn't. I'm a good Christian. I'm doing what you've asked
All the
me
right
to do.
stuff.
I've been a good mother. I've been a good person in my community. Why is my son dead? If you love me, maybe I'm not a good enough Christian. Maybe, I didn't want to be angry with God, because I was like, I don't want to be angry with God because I know that that's not the right way to go. But I was just
Questioning him.
questioning
And
him.
he's big enough for that. And then I think sometimes when people tell people, well, God lost his son. Do you find that comforting when people say that to
Absolutely
you?
not.
I think that's kind of a minimizing. Well, Jesus died, so God understands. I mean,
I just think that people, unless this has happened to them,
Hello.
they don't understand. They really don't. But what I've learned is that you can take pain and turn it into triumph. You can use that pain to help other people, and that may be what God wants you to do.
did you want to do that right away? Because I don't know. We're gonna have commercial. This has really been.
I'm just gonna
excellent.
go right into it because
Yeah.
we are running a little bit
Okay.
long on time, a little low on time. But because of that, you continued. You actually started going back to church.
Excellent.
How
And
long
that's
after
what
that?
happened.
About a year later, or how long?
Oh, it took a while. I'd go in church and just cry.
Right.
I don't even know. It just was a fog. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to be mad at God, but I didn't
You don't want to
really
talk to
want
him
hear
either.
what God had to say
Yeah, that's
anymore about why this happened to me. I really just didn't
I didn't
want
want
to
any
hear it.
pat answers, please.
Right.
I don't want to hear because
Right.
yeah.
Right. That's the way I felt.
Right.
But you started to begin to see your way through the pain and the grief.
Yes.
Did somebody come and knock on the door? A friend held your hand and go, "Let's go to church."
A lot
Paula?
of friends.
Okay, so
A
that's
lot of
important.
friends.
We want to
were
put
like,
that out there.
Paula, look, you know what?
That's what we
I don't
want.
just come go to church with me. I know it's tough for you. I just want to be there with you, my sister. You've always, you love God, and I'm like, I love God, but I don't know if God loves me.
Right.
So people continued and always reach out to me. Jita,
Oh,
one of them.
Oh yeah, my girl.
Jita,
yeah.
one of them, come on, Paula, we're going to church. I had another friend named Melva. I mean, I had so many friends that love the Lord that, just continue to
be
reach
there
out
for
to
you,
me.
to reach out. See, that's important to the community.
Exactly.
Okay, so people were there to.
But through that process, you started realizing that God was not responsible for your son's passing, but also forgiving yourself and knowing that you were not responsible for your son's death.
Did you feel that?
Absolutely.
Did you go through that?
A mother will always feel responsible.
What did you feel? How?
I just felt like, why didn't I move further away out of
What
the
could I have
community?
done?
Why am I trying to help other people in the community? We should have moved further away where we don't have to worry about violence. And I mean, just, every decision that you ever make, you question it. You think, that's when things changed, or that's when this changed, or why did I work late, or why did I marry this person, or everything that you've done,
Right.
it becomes.
You have to go through that. So hopefully you're helping somebody out there that's going through.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's
if
somebody
you
who died of
feel-
cancer or whatever it is,
no
You
matter.
had to go there.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter that my son was taken away violently,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of mothers out there that may have lost a child. And the organization that I'm with that we'll talk about, I mean, we don't feel like you have to lose a child to violence. That pain is real,
To lose a
to
child,
lose a
period.
child. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, a lot of people begin to question themselves.
Mhm. Gosh, Paula, you're getting a lot tonight.
Well, when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about women, Mothers in Charge, the
Mhm.
LA chapter, which Paula is the founder here in the LA chapter, and we're going to give out information about that and what the organization's about. We're going to be right back. I want you to stay tuned. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm always in one of mine. Constant spins, not trusting. He opens doors to go in, but I'm afraid to depend upon him. I bring him ashes for gold. He starts to work, I put him on hold. Still he's faithful to me, 'cause he's blind as to see. I'm praising God, praising God. I'm praising God, praising God. I'm praising God, praising God. I'm praising God. Oh, I'm praising God. He's all to me, my life, my love. He sets me free, I love him any time of day. I close my eyes and I can pray to Jesus. Come and follow me, I'll make you whole if you serve me.
Okay.
It is you and
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
I'm joined here by my co-host and author of Shaped by the Master's Hand, Lolita Robinson,
Another Sunday to learn.
and our in-studio guest, Paula Henderson.
Hi, thank you.
She is the founder and president of the LA chapter here of Mothers in Charge. And when we talk about saying inspirational reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid, she is not leaving anything unsaid.
Mhm.
So if you're being touched out there, if you're being spoken to at this time, I want you to engage with us. Find us on Twitter /Joy in My House. Find us on Facebook /Joy in My House. Engage with us. Let us know the struggles that you're going through and the joy that you have through those struggles, as Paula is, because through this tragic experience, something good has come out. And it's hard to say that something good can come out of such a loss. But now you are the founder
Yeah.
and president of Mothers in Charge here in LA.
And when you came on the show, you were just launching it, right?
Correct.
So yeah, you got a lot to tell us.
Absolutely.
Keep it up there.
Well, like so many mothers that may have lost a child, and hopefully we're talking to some of those mothers today. Mothers in Charge is an organization of mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers, daughters, and also members of the community who are interested in making a change in our community. Mothers in Charge was founded over 11 years ago by Dorothy Johnson Spite in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and it's so ironic that's the state I was born in.
Wow.
She lost her son in 2001. He was killed over a parking space, shot 7 times over a parking space. And she also was a woman of God, a woman who had gone off and gotten advanced degrees, was still living in her community and trying to make a difference. And her son, her had just graduated from college, and they were interested in working with at-risk youth.
Wow.
And here he is killed by someone who had a rap sheet for over 11 pages, as Dorothy says. This boy who killed her son had been in and out of prison since he was 16. He killed her son and another boy. And she had this vision that the mothers coming together who had lost children could make a difference, because sometimes these boys that are picking up these guns, if they haven't been in the adoption system, as we talked about, because a lot of our kids are being lost to adoptions of the foster care system. There's no one stepping in to help them. They're bitter, angry, and they take out that rage
On other people.
on other people and on the community and on other children. So she had the vision that we needed to bring both sides together, not just the victims, but also the victims who have children that'll never walk the streets again.
Right,
So
and all their families, like you said, because it
absolutely.
affects grandparents,
It affects the community,
friends, anybody.
both sides. I mean,
Wow.
that gun and the violence that the gun is causing is really destroying our community.
Well, what I find so interesting is that you're not the only woman who has lost somebody in LA, but yet the Lord put it in your. How did that come about? That they chose you, or you felt led to step up? To take
Tell us
that?
how you got
Yeah,
involved with
yeah.
Mothers in Charge.
How I got involved was I had been attending, like I started reaching out. I wanted to know what happened to my son, and how I could help. I was like, my son is a victim, but there's so many other victims. So started going to ceasefire meetings, and I met other mothers there. Now, ceasefire deals more with gang intervention, but there are mothers there that had lost children that had gotten involved in this movement. And I met up with a couple other mothers, and we kind of wanted to do our own thing. And so we formed this chapter. And when Dorothy was actually locally visiting, we had met up with her. And so here's our original group.
Was
when
that the
we
ladies
first
that were with
started
us the first time?
out. Yeah, you got
Yeah,
Maddie
Maddie,
there,
Maddie,
and then
yes.
Dorothy is sitting in the center, and
Okay.
she's the one that heads up the national office.
Okay.
And actually, we're going to be having a Cost of Violence National Convention in Philadelphia this year to be the second annual one. So really what Dorothy is doing is bringing families together and dealing with both sides of the violence. I mean, she even goes into the prison system, because what we have to do, we have to forgive. If you can't carry that rage and anger around. Part of it is forgiveness.
And that is amazing.
And that's where it's coming to. That's where the process is coming from. Well, last time you guys were here, which I thought was important, you said you didn't want to make it about the guns. You wanted to make it about mental health.
Right.
So why don't you reiterate on that again?
Well, a big part of the mental health issue is that so many of our kids are getting lost to the system. They're part of, they've been adopted or not adopted or in the foster care system. They have a lot of anger issues. They have a lot of mental illness issues that are not being addressed. They are not coping well. So we need to reach out to those kids before they pick up a gun. We need to catch them when they're 8 or 9 before, and help them to feel valued in the community. And then one day when they are of age, they won't feel like no one cares. My life doesn't matter, and neither does yours.
Yeah, you look
So I'm gonna-
happy and I'm not, so bam.
Right. You
Right.
look like you've had a family that cared about you, or they don't even know what's
Yeah, they don't-
driving
they don't
them.
even
They just
understand it.
are angry. They're
Broken.
enraged.
And didn't you say you
and they're
guys have
broken.
talking to some of these kids? Didn't Maddie say that you guys go into the prison sometimes?
Now, Maddie and her group, because it's more established, they go into San Quentin.
That's what I
And
thought.
they talk to kids, and so does the Philadelphia office. And what we'd like to do in Los Angeles is to be able to go in and talk to kids that are going to be doing long-term sentences because they've committed a murder. And what the goal is to bridge that gap so that they understand how we as mothers feel losing our children, and how it impacts the community, and also that we love them in spite of the choices that they've made. And so they go back and they actually build relationships with children that are incarcerated, that are going to be incarcerated probably for the rest of their life. It was really interesting in that when we had our October 7th launch,
Yeah.
we had clergy, we had law enforcement, we had victims of violent crime, we also had Crime Stoppers, and we also had Dorothy come out in January, because we now have a local church where we meet regularly.
That's
And let's
right.
talk
yeah,
about the meeting
yeah.
that you meet. You meet every Monday
Yes.
at Ray of Light
Missionary Baptist Church.
Missionary Baptist Church at 6:30.
Yes.
So this is an ongoing available ministry as we speak.
Absolutely.
Is it a support group for mothers to come
It's
to?
a support group.
And for volunteers, it's for everybody?
Yes, a support group, a place for people to come and volunteer, to get involved in the community, who want to address what's going on. I mean, people think that you have to lose a child to become involved, but you don't. We are there so that hopefully you won't have to lose a child. If you have any passion and concern for the community and want to become involved, Mothers in Charge is there because we want to offer mentoring to our young people.
And what about donations? Do you have that? Her donations or
If
whatever?
people want to find out more information and support the organization, where can they go?
Mothersincharge.org, and there is the national office's link there. They can make a donation. They can fill out an online volunteer form on that website, and those will come back to the Los Angeles office, because our goal is, this is a national issue. Like I mentioned, how many people were murdered in LA. Well, you can look at New York, you can look at Philadelphia, you can look at Detroit, you can look at any major city. And when you add up the numbers of murdered young black men and men of color, period, we're losing. It's almost like genocide. And I never thought that I would use that, but you know what?
The numbers are astronomical.
The numbers are astronomical. This needs to stop. And the only way is for us to reach out to these young people that may pick up a gun, show them some love, get them involved, mentor them. Someone mentored me.
So where can they
That's
go
beautiful.
again? Monday night, 6:30.
And did she
Ray of
tell
Light
about the
Missionary
thing that's
Baptist
coming up?
Church.
Did you talk more about it?
The
About the-
address for, I'm sorry,
No,
Ray
no.
of Light is 4259 Western Avenue. Pastor Starks is leading this. And I think I mentioned he lost a great niece. He picked up the phone and called me because I had these out in the community.
This is the pastor where the church is now?
Yes.
Oh.
This pastor called me. I had these out in the community, and it was December. And he called me and he said, you know what? I want to get one of these chapters started at my church. I lost my niece. She was in a tragic accident, but it was all related to violence. And he wanted to reach out to the community. And what I love about the church and the pastor, because now I have joy about going in the church, this pastor says, we are tired of recycling Christians. We want to get new Christians. We want to save lives. So the church is located in a really tough part of town. There's 4 different gangs in that community. There's all kind of prostitution,
drug and violence.
I mean, it's so many lives to save. And me being involved in this church is really changing
Boy,
my
your
life.
face is lit up. So here
And
goes that question.
And we're gonna
He
go
loves
try and
it.
get him on the show. I think we're
I
trying to
would
get him
love to
this
get
week,
Pastor
but it didn't work
Starks
out. But
on the
we'll
show,
definitely
yes.
get him on.
Wow.
Well, we always like to ask, because we are coming to
Yeah,
a
your
close.
face lit up at the end there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice to see you 4 years down the line. Like you said, you're still
Oh my
processing
God,
your
I'll
testimony.
never, ever.
Yeah, you never forget.
It's never
it.
going to be
No.
what it was. I'll never be the same person. But I don't know
New
who
normal.
God has for me to be. If I can save one child's life, that they don't pick up a gun and take another child's life, that child that didn't pick up the gun, the child that didn't lose a life, and all the family members in the community, and how that wave expands. If I can be part of that solution, I'm doing this in honor of my son, Liban Adden, who was murdered. If I can save anybody's life or help anybody's family, and we really need people to volunteer and get involved, because that's our next challenge.
Well, I think you answered the question, but I'm gonna have to ask. She kind of got ahead of
She
me.
sure did ask it,
We
but it
always
was
like to ask, the premise of the show is joy in my house, even in the midst of what you're going through. But it's a year later, and like Lolita said, your face just lit up. What joy do you have right now? What does joy in my house mean to you now, today?
Joy means that, getting involved in starting this chapter of Mothers in Charge has changed my life. I was trying to save my son's life, and I didn't successfully change his life. But he's changed my life, because his death has led me to reach
bigger
out.
purpose. You said a bigger purpose.
He's given me a much bigger purpose to save people in my community. I'll see my son again. I'll never get over his loss, but I know that he would want me to help, and any mother out there, anyone in the community, We need you to get involved.
That's beautiful,
Very
Joy.
well said.
You know, you help me to get up in the mornings. I think of you and I think of my friend Twyla. And if you all can do it, honey, I can do it.
You can. You got it.
Thank you for being here,
Thank you
Paula.
for coming on the show, Paula.
Thank you.
Hope to see you back again a
Yes.
year from now and
That's
find out
right.
how big this ministry has grown.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in my house. I want you to find out more
you.
information. Go to mothersincharge.org. You can find them on Facebook as well. And
Maybe
engage.
can they go to Philadelphia if they want to
Yeah,
go?
we're having a big conference in Philadelphia.
You mentioned that?
Yeah, when you go online, you'll see a link for the cost of violence. It's our second national conference, and there'll be other mothers there. There'll be clergy. They'll be in the community. We're looking at this. We want a movement. We want to stop the violence. We want our kids to live. We want people to get involved and reached out. You can make a difference no matter how small. If you're a teacher, if you're a police officer, if you're a garbage collector, come to the church, 4259 Western Avenue. Even if you haven't lost someone, if you care and love your community, we need you.
Get involved, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.
This is Joy in my house. Join us here live every Sunday at noon. Stay tuned. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you.
He's an humble man. He seeks his Father and he prays.